Thank you so much, Tsietsi. Well, the Lagos state government has confirmed to the South African government that 54 bodies will be repatriated overnight. That figure was adjusted to 74. Up until yesterday, families of the deceased and the country at large have been hoping for all the bodies to be brought back home. One of the people who form part of the team with visiting families here in South Africa is Mr. Kirsten Nematendani. He speaks to us this morning in his capacity as spokesperson of the Synagogue Church of All Nations. Mr. Nematendani, very good morning to you. Thank you so very much for joining us.
Good morning to you and to the viewers out there.
You've been visiting some of the loved ones of those who perished on the 12th of September 2014. What is the prevailing sentiment among them?
Thank you very much. Let me start by once again expressing our messages of condolences on behalf of Emmanuel TV partners and of course the Synagogue Church of All Nations and the man of God himself. We are saying at this point in time, we continue to grieve with them. Look, I think I've been quite fortunate to have been out at various points where we managed to interact with families. I must just tell you, when we first visit some families, just to break the news, wasn't an easy one. Of course, from the church side, because the church had to dispatch a team down from Lagos to come down here and really go and relate exactly what happened. And of course, after, relating what really happened, of course, as usual, a shock comes in and people break down. And of course, the team was very, very strong in terms of giving them that support, in terms of emotional support and spiritual support. And families then could then begin to open up to say, now we understand what is happening. And of course, that was first visit, second visit, third visit. As we proceed to the third visit, that's when it was again becoming difficult because members wanted to know. We thank you for all the support, spiritual support, emotional support, financial support, but when are the bodies coming back?
What sort of financial support has the church offered?
Well, it was basic on the understanding that in some cases, families have lost breadwinners, and that therefore means life still has to continue as normal. And of course, in some cases, you find kids are at school, at universities, fees have to be paid, and some are staying in rental places. All those things had to be met. Whilst going around visiting families, there was a process of auditing the needs of the family so that life should not be worse off than they were before, because from a church side, the compassion and care and love remain paramount.
Would that be once off or on a continuous basis that you provide financial support?
Certainly will depend on what the circumstances are. If it's a breadwinner and there are kids that are going to school, surely the church had made a serious commitment to want to make sure that those kids continue with their education, and the relationship of those families with the church will be a continuous relationship. As you know, from the church point of view, it's about supporting people spiritually, and the love and compassion remains paramount. And if that has to exist, that process has to continue.
Is this the church accepting blame for this situation? And I'd like to contextualize this by saying the following. It's human nature during the grieving process for people to seek closure by finding out the reasons why and apportioning blame to a particular party. So by providing financial incentives through the various discourse that we're seeing, who do we blame in this situation? Very
interesting you asking that question, because at this point in time, as you know, there's been an inquest running. And of course, the church also has its team that is doing the investigation in this regard. Over and above that, what the church could really understand at this point in time is the manner in which that building came down clearly indicates that it was a controlled demolition. It went down in seconds, and never would a building that is having a structural defect go down in few seconds. And that is the understanding.
If I may play devil's advocate for a second or two now, if it was an implosion and something that was organized, I understand that the security there is extremely tight. Before you even arrive in Lagos, details of your whereabouts, of who you are and your employment and how much you earn and all of that information is there. So for anybody to be able to get inside the building to implant explosives, such a task would be near impossible in terms of security there. How would it have been that someone could implant explosive devices to implode the building?
Look, as much as we could say the church has enough security. It's about personnel who are going there for the church, but I do not believe those are really people who are really clear security. If people can penetrate a government setup where, in fact, not only government, intelligence headquarters, then you ask yourself, what about a church whose core business is merely spiritual emancipation and, of course, to support people to that extent? But the point that we're trying to advance is the fact that, indeed, in all probability, the demolition of that structure shows that it's a controlled demolition. It doesn't show any structural defect where one could go back to the theory that was once proposed that perhaps it was a structural defect. It would have hanged somewhere, it would have leaned upon another building, but that didn't happen. If you put on your stopwatch, it's within second that building came. Very systematic, like all controlled demolition.
We'll have to leave it there for now, Mr. Nematendani. I thank you so much for your time. So much to go through. I do know that we will have a number of representatives from the church to also speak to us further about the issues that we were raising a little bit earlier today. Thank you so much again for your time. A quick ad break.